You never should have hired him in the first place, and you know that. But it's because you didn't ask one of these 3 deal breaker questions in the very beginning of your interview. Now, you're not alone. I've been where you are, where this guy named Tommy shows up. And Tommy is the salesperson that you desperately need to hire. Whether you have too many leads, you just need more salespeople to hit quota, or you have to get yourself out of sales. And as Tommy talks to you in the interview, you are seeing with rose-colored glasses everything that you want to see in Tommy. And you're excited to fast track your success. You bring him on board, and then you fast forward 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, and you look back, you're like, what was I thinking? Why in the world did I hire this guy? This was the worst choice. And then you need to fire him. And firing sucks even when it's the right thing to do. So in this video, which was inspired, by the way, by a recent session inside the Roofing and Solar Reform Alliance, which is the application-only network where we share our winning secrets to help each other dominate in today's uncertain and fast-changing times. And we had a leadership roundtable sharing our interviewing and hiring best practices. And I said, you know what? This would be really great to share with the world, because I realized how many people I've hired that I shouldn't have, I really would have filtered out with these 3 questions. So that's what I'm going to share with you in today's video. And if you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. Adam Bensman here, and let's get started. Roofing sales is personal development in disguise, and the reward for growth is life-changing. I hope my content helps you create a richer life and bank account. All right, here are the 3 deal breaker interview questions that you should start asking at the very beginning of your interview. Now, before I share each question, what I'm going to do is explain the reason behind the question, because at face value, the question may not make sense. But to me, these are deal breakers, and I want you to have the same knowledge at your disposal, because this is like stupid easy and stupid fast and stupid free, and it's going to really make a big difference in your interview process. So my very first question actually carries off of the phone call that sets up the interview. And I'll do another video in the future about one-on-one versus group interviews and why my views. I was wrong. I used to believe in one-on-one interviews. Now I actually believe in a combination, but starting with a group interview. I'll explain more of that later. But before I even get them to come in the first place, I give that person a homework assignment. It says, do your research on our company and come with questions. That's it. Hey, before the interview, I want you to do your research on our company and come with questions. Now, when that person shows up, I just want to put yourself in their shoes for a minute. Let's imagine that you're interviewing for a new job, which means it's like your entire livelihood and your family's livelihood is dependent upon you earning a good living at this new company. So out of curiosity, wouldn't you want to know more about the company before the interview? Yeah, right? It's kind of obvious. Of course you're going to do research on the company. Who is this company? What are they out? What are they about? How can I be prepared for this interview? And am I sure this is the kind of company that I want to work for? So the minute that they get there, you jump right in and say, hey, great. And by the way, we'll call him Mikey. Mikey, thanks for coming, man. I'm really excited to kickstart this interview with you. Tell me, I know you researched our company. I said, come with questions. What questions do you have for me? And at this moment, you're going to just watch one of 2 things most likely happen. One is the deer in the headlights look, which is I didn't research a dang thing, and they realized I didn't do anything at all. And at that point, there's, in my opinion, absolutely zero reason to move forward. This shows absolutely zero initiative. And why would you want to hire someone who isn't even willing to do the homework to learn about your company? To me, when I invest in someone through training and personal development, they need to give to me the equal match, right? You give 100%, I give 100%. But if they're not even willing to find out more and to come prepared, why would I be willing to do that? I don't want to hire someone who doesn't want the job. I repeat, I would never want to hire someone who doesn't want this job. And if they didn't do any research, they clearly did not want the job. Okay. Now there's one exception to this rule is if someone says, I don't have any questions yet, but I will, but here's what I found. And then they explain what they find about your company. Then you need to let it slide. Okay. Why? Because they came prepared and they communicated really well. So you just need to find out, one, does this person take direction well? Will they do what they're told to do? And do they want this job? And if the answer is no, end the interview. And I have, in fact, ended interviews. When people say, hey, well, I actually didn't research it, say, well, you know what? This isn't going to be a good fit because you had one assignment. If you don't do instructions well right now, we're not going to be a good fit moving forward. So thank you for coming in and I wish you all the best. Don't even waste your time. So that's question number 1, okay? Tell them, Do your research, come with questions, and then ask them, what questions do you have for me? I know you did your research. All right, let's get into number two. Number two, roofing sales is not easy. It is very simple, but it is not easy. And I think we both agree that it takes someone who has the fortitude, the mental fortitude, the motivation, the discipline, the persistence, and the goal orientation to succeed, because they're going to deal with setbacks and challenges on the regular. So one of the things that I'm looking for is someone's past, because very frequently people's past will predict the future. And as Jordan Peterson says, like, the idea of changing their personality is just simply not going to happen. People's personalities don't change. But salespeople, or people who are soon wanting to be salespeople because they're hiring for a sales role, they are often very good BSers, and they are very good at predicting what they think you want to hear and then telling it to you, because they can be people pleasers. And if you're like me and you've been sold way too many times by the salesperson that tells you everything that you want to hear, and you're like, yeah, great, no, thank you for validating. I do want to hire you. And then you're wrong. Again, I sadly know this from experience. You start to sniff out ways to like get around that. And I'm just going to teach it to you right now. And that is, ask them to tell you stories. Because when someone tells you a story about the past, they are much more likely to tell you the truth. Because it's not a hypothetical, like, how would you handle it if, like, no one cares how you'd handle it if. Tell me about how you handled it when, tell me about a time when, okay? So I want them to tell me a story about their past, because to them, it's a much more casual, low stakes conversation, and the truth comes out. So knowing that we need to ask questions about the past, and knowing that we need someone who's goal oriented, we're gonna put those together and ask this question. Tell me about a time that you achieved a really big goal and what it was like to get there. And what they're gonna do is think back in time, and I don't care where they're at in age. You might have someone that just graduated high school, and I wanna hear about how hard they had to work to get a spot on the starting team on their varsity football team, for example. That's cool, that's great. Like, you had your goal or your target set. I don't care if it was learning how to play the piano. I don't care if it's business or finance, it doesn't matter. What I need to know is, have they worked really hard to achieve a goal in the past? And then tell me about the times and the challenges that you went through to get there. Because if they have never done that in the past, I just want to ask you this. Why are they going to start now? They won't. So you're going to bring someone in who'll be faced with challenges. They don't know what it's like to have to work hard to achieve a goal. And they're going to bail because it got too hard. So that, my friend, is deal breaker question number 2. All right. Question number 3. I'm saving my favorite for last. Why? Because to me, and you may or may not share this value, but to me, roofing sales is personal development in disguise. I talk about this at length in my book called The Roofing Sales Survival Guide, How to Beat the Odds, Overcome Yourself, and Win Big. It became a #1 bestseller on Amazon, and no, not like marketing where you pay money to like become bestseller, like legit actual sales in the first 24 hours. Became a #1 bestseller in the sales category, and is now required reading for roofing companies all across the US and Canada for every single new hire and existing sales teams. They do little book clubs about it. But I talk about how roofing sales is personal development in disguise. And if you share that philosophy and you believe that roofing sales is personal development in disguise, wouldn't it be fair to say that you and I are looking for people who are dedicated to personal development, who are eager and excited to learn new skills and advance their career, both personally and professionally? Yeah, I'd say so, right? So how do we ask about this? Well, it's really simple. We want to find out what they're doing right now to invest in their own personal development or professional development. And here's my favorite question to ask. So tell me, what books are you reading right now? What books or what book are you reading right now? Okay, don't worry. By the way, if I just called you out and you're not reading a book right now, I have some backup plans for you that'll get to the same place. But you'll find very quickly if someone says, oh, I'm not reading anything right now, or they just look like a deer in the headlights, you know that they are not reading any books right now. Now, for me, I'm in between 2 to 4 books at a time, combination of Audible and then books that I am actually physically reading in print. And there are times that life gets busy. That book might sit on my end table for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, something like that. But at the end of the day, I'm back in it. It's a routine. Routines get disrupted here and there. There's grace, right? I don't need someone that's like, I dedicate 34 minutes every day to this, and like, it doesn't matter. I just want to know, are they dedicated? Now, if someone has a deer in the headlights look, say, so then tell me, what podcasts are you listening to? What podcasts are you listening to? And what you'll find is if people don't have any books or podcasts that they're listening to or YouTube channels that they follow, and you're asking these questions, you know that they are spending every waking moment of their life on distraction and entertainment. And if they're like, don't get me wrong, I love true crime. I do. Talk about addicting shows on Netflix. Sometimes Long Drive's good podcast to get into a true crime story. But there's a time and a place for entertainment versus education. And I weight a lot more of my personal time into the education realm than the entertainment realm. And if they're only looking at podcasts that are like comedy and true crime, they don't show the fact that they are committed to personal development. They don't have that natural curiosity and drive to better themselves. So what books are you reading right now? What are your favorite podcasts? What are your favorite YouTube channels? And then my favorite one, and by the way, it's all like a variation of that first one, which is what book are you reading right now? Which by the way is designed to catch someone on their heels if there is heels to be caught on, is what was the most influential book you ever read? So it's okay if they're not reading a book now, but if I say, what was the most influential book you ever read? And they struggle, then they're just not reading. By the way, for me, that is Brian Tracy's book called Goals, How to Achieve Everything in Life Faster Than You Ever Dreamed Possible. It's the book I read before getting into roofing sales. Actually, that's not true, not before, about 6 weeks into getting into roofing sales that led me to achieving my very first 6-figure income goal in 8 months, led me to my wife, paying off my debt, buying my dream house, buying a boat. All these things were designed, figuring out my bottleneck, that product knowledge was my weak link. I still have all the exercises from the book, but anywho, that's just an example. And if you want my recommended reading list, by the way, it's in my free training center, and you can click the link in the description below or go to adamsfreestuff.com. So now you have it, the 3 make or break interview questions that you can ask to help you avoid hiring all the wrong people in the future. Again, number 1, tell me, you've done your research on me, what questions do you have? Number 2, tell me about a time that you achieved a really big goal and what it was like to get there. And then number 3, what book or books are you reading right now? Use these in your next interview process, and let me know how it goes. I hope it helps you hire the right people. Now, if you're like me, you've probably also been in the position where you're struggling with this decision of do I fire this person or do I save this person? If that's you, jump into this next video because it's going to give you a crystal clear path to finding the answer. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.